as I mentioned, Open Civic. And really encourage you to go work and collaborate and take advantage of DKAN at the module level, not just at the distribution level. We want a turnkey, out-of-the-box, full-featured open data portal, but really the secret sauce is these two things, and they're of course open projects on Drupal.org as well, and we really encourage you to take advantage of them, or even better, contribute to them. Yeah.
So I have a question about kind of how this is connected with like semantic web and sort of what the next sort of integration phase when everyone's in sort of open data land that's
yep.
pushing their data out, and specifically in regards to kind of international collaboration.
Yep.
So
sure. So first of all, semantic web people are brilliant, and I'm not, and so I'm probably going to say stupid things. But the Drupal community is really savvy about semantic web and is building strong support for it into core. So we get RDFA compliance out of the box. We have built-in DCAT compliance, and we're building in Data.json compliance, which is part of the new federal open data requirements. So we basically get what you get with Drupal in terms of semantic web for all intents and purposes, and we think that's actually a great thing because we don't have to figure it out all by ourselves. I'm sure there are things that we could be doing above and beyond if we were really semantic web experts, and that's again, if you are and you care about this, we really encourage you to add issues to the issue queues on Drupal.org so we can do it. Also, the Open Knowledge Foundation, the CKAN developers are really plugged into that world and are leading the way, and so we are really just happy to follow their model in terms of what standards we should be compliant with. The good news is always just that we found to date, Drupal just makes it easy for us. We don't have to do a lot from scratch, which is great. Yeah?
Do you have Drush integration support? Like, I'm thinking of like a CSV file that has, let's say, 20 million records or something.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, using the file upload utility probably isn't good for gigabytes of data.
Right. So there's a good, well-documented read and write API. So yes, to your heart's content. For the distro itself, there's a Drush file, and you can stand it up that way. But I think there's one thing that, in particular, Data.gov has done a lot of work with is the workflows of getting data published, which in different governments can be quite different in terms of what process security and bureaucracy-wise you have to go through. I think there's a lot to do, not just in terms of the technical capacity to publish large files efficiently, but also to manage the workflows in ways that can be really customized to the requirements of a specific organization. I think there's a lot of work ahead on that. Again, luckily Drupal has good publishing workflow tools, so customizing those to this context we think is a fairly light lift, and we'd love help on that. Yeah. Limitations of DKAN versus CKAN. So out of the box, it uses MySQL, not Postgres. So if that's important to you to use Postgres for a reason that's either skill set wise or technical, historically I think Postgres has been stronger with support for spatial data, for example, a little bit less so maybe, or MySQL's caught up a little bit, is my understanding. But if that's important to you, there's some extra work to do to make Postgres work as the data store. Totally feasible. People do it with Drupal, but it's less frequently done. So there's a little bit more work to do and a little bit more fending for yourself to do that. Let's see, what else is CKAN? It will probably be a little bit ahead in terms of new ideas that we might not think of because Open Knowledge Foundation are more core in the global open data community. We try to be as close behind, and again, typically have something already built in Drupal that we can plug in, so we're not far behind. But I think CKAN will likely always be out a little bit ahead in terms of new features, compliance with new standards that emerge, that sort of thing. Other than that, technologically, I don't think there are any inherent limits in DKAN versus CKAN. It's more like, do you like orange or Apple? It's like, do you like Drupal and PHP? And you have that skill set, I think you'll be better served by DKAN. If you like Python and Postgres and you have that skill set, you may be better served by CKAN. And then the other considerations I think are at a deeper level than that in terms of how much do you need to extend it, how deeply do you want to integrate it with the public-facing website that does other kinds of content management and user management, that sort of thing. So it has a lot to do with the hardware, obviously, not just the platform, but the database also matters in terms of how you set it up and tune it in MySQL versus Postgres. Again, I don't think, other than the difference in database, and other than the fact that, yeah, I'd say, well, so I'm not a Python developer, so I can't speak to this specifically, but I've heard some complaints that that CKAN itself has some code bloat and some issues that affect its performance as well. That's just secondhand hearsay, and I can't say that from direct experience. Of course, we have the same debate about Drupal and sort of a fat core versus thin core. So that's all I can really say about it. But obviously, we can scale Drupal sites to very massive scales in terms of data. We just often think of it as content, like newspaper articles, and there's no reason that data sets can't be scaled in the same way within Drupal, especially if you're willing to put a different data store on it if you need it. Like if you need a NoSQL database because of the structure and nature of your data, you can do it. It just takes extra work. Yep, we're supporting data harvesting here as well. We're a little bit more development yet to be done on that to catch up with CKAN. But you can do data harvesting. You don't have to have even the data stored in your own data store to be able to work with it through DKAN, just as with CKAN. Often you're pointing off to data resources that are hosted elsewhere. So that's I think that's actually a great thing. We want not everybody to have to put their data in the same place. We want a distributed open data database set of databases, and then to be able to easily discover that data and aggregate it and search within it in contexts that make sense, which is just what you're doing at Data.gov, which is fantastic. I think you're doing a good job with that, whether you use CKAN or DKAN or Socrata to do it at some level. It doesn't really matter. They should just be following the same approach to doing that. And certainly, again, we're trying to mirror the standards that are set by CKAN in that regard. Yeah.
First off, we just said it's not true. All Python code.
That's right.
So similar question to that. With the Data.gov.uk, I remember seeing someone talk about how you had the Drupal page, and when you actually had the CKAN page, there were themes, so it looked almost identical. As convoluted a solution as it is, you can imagine that playing with strength about it. In a way, I wouldn't want to maintain that. But in merging all that into a sort of Drupal-only solution, what do you think? Is there anything you've lost in doing that? I mean, for anyone trying to migrate all that type of stuff into a single Drupal solution, what's I guess maybe best practices or anything you derive from that?
So to migrate from a CKAN plus Drupal solution to DKAN?
Yeah.
So we're about to do a big one, which I can't talk about yet, but so I can tell you more in a few weeks. Again, you may lose if there's something that's just come out in CKAN in terms of a new feature or a new standard that it supports. You may have to do some extra work to catch up that feature gap if it's important to you upon launch. We find that for most of our customers and partners, it's not. That they want the basics and they're happy to know that they can extend it in-house if they want, or that they can pay us to do it, or that they can hire somebody else to do it. So there's really nothing, there's no major feature that is lost by customers that move to DKAN from CKAN plus Drupal. It's just that if you've done very sophisticated work on your existing Drupal site, you're going to probably be plugging in the DKAN modules to that rather than redeveloping that. So you don't even have to redevelop your Drupal site really to take advantage of DKAN, which is a great thing. And you no longer have to theme two different platforms that have completely different theming approaches and tools, and to have those two skill sets in-house and to double that work.
Was there anything in terms of UE that was in the Python side of things, the CKAN, that just didn't translate to Drupal?
Not that we've found so far. I mean, there are certainly people who've done significantly custom things with CKAN, and we haven't tried to replicate all of those custom things. But in terms of CKAN core and the major contributed modules that are widely used in CKAN, or the contributed plugins, DKAN has it all at this point, or it's on a very near-term roadmap, which you can see just transparently on the Drupal.org issue queue for the project. Anybody else? All right, thanks. I have fancy postcards here if anybody wants one. And again, one last plug, please check in on the Drupal.org issue page. We really want this to be a collaborative project, and we're never the smartest folks in the room by ourselves, so please get involved. Thanks.